Okay, thank you. Okay, before other people come, if anybody wants to ask anything, you can. Even you can switch on the audio and you can talk. That is only due to leakage. The volume of air decreases, it loses air because of the leakage only. Nothing. It's no way related to thermodynamics. Okay, we will start. Please start recording. So, good morning, all of you. Life is a journey with problems to solve and lessons to learn, but most of all, experiences to enjoy. Every experience, you have to enjoy it. Today's quote: there is only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self. Never try to improve some other fellow or the whole world. Actually, there is a small story. One fellow wants to change the world, and he went on trying to change the world. And after a few years, he could understand that he cannot change world. And then he thought, okay, at least I will change my country. And then again, he started working on it. Again, after a few years, he found it's not possible. Then he reduced it to the state, and then to his city, then to his street, and then to his home. And finally, he thought, first I have to improve my own self. If you change yourself, you will see the world with a different eye. So whatever you see today may not be the same. It's not physically, right? So your psychological thing I'm telling. it depends on the state of mind. So as I told, as you are, so you see, right? So if you improve yourself, you will feel that the world is changing and it's improving. Okay, whose birthday is today? The great Telugu writer and poet and patriot, Gurujada Apparao sir, right? So he is a great Telugu poet and beautiful poems he has written. Just for an example, it is given here. It is in Telugu, and the Telugu people can enjoy, and they might have read in their schools. దేశమును ప్రేమించుమన్నా మంచి అన్నది పెంచుమన్నా వట్టి మాటలు కట్టి పెట్టోయి గట్టి మేలు తలపెట్టబోయి సొంత లాభం కొంత మానుకు పొరుగువారికి తోడుపడబోయి దేశమంటే మట్టి కాదోయి దేశమంటే మంచి. So, and he says, if a person trusts you and you deceive him, it's fraud. If a person doesn't trust you, it's politics. Okay, there is another great lady who has got birth today, and she is the famous Sudha Chandran. I think even North Indians might have seen her in TV serials and all. She is a dancer and actress. And in 1981, she was born in 64. And in 1981, she hurt her leg in a road accident near Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu, while coming back from Madras and with her parents. Her leg became gangrenous, and her parents opted to have it amputated. Otherwise, she will die. So, leg is removed. However, she subsequently became an established Bharatanatyam dancer. She returned to dancing after a gap of 2 years and performed in India, Saudi Arabia, US, UK, Canada, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Yemen, Oman. Her biography is part of curriculum for school children in the age group of 8 to 11. And she's a great, if you see her dance, there is a movie in Telugu, Mayuri. And if you see her dance, you don't feel that she is an amputee, right? You cannot identify. And she says, believe it or not, the show ended. I performed the Varanyam with ease and received a standing ovation. After her amputation, she has given the performance. When I was home, my dad came up to me and touched my feet, saying that I am touching the feet of the goddess Saraswati because you have done the impossible, and that has been the moment that touched me the most. And she says it was a slow and painful process, but with every step I learned, I knew that this is what I wanted. Great lady. And today we are going to have the lecture 12. And last class, we have seen what is the conservation of mass and conservation of energy for steady flow, unsteady flow, and first law of thermodynamics for control volumes, and identify energy of fluid stream, that is flow work, kinetic energy, potential energy, and internal energy. And then we applied the energy equation to various devices like nozzle, diffuser, turbine, compressor, heat exchanger, mixing chamber, boiler, condenser, and such things. And we have done some problems also. We'll see the class. And we have seen some problems. Steady state, steady flow energy equation we have done. And it's not moving properly. And application of SSF and VE. Okay, some more things here. It is given electric heating of air in a house. Suppose I have a house and it is heated electrically using electricity, and some volume of air is coming and going. And if you apply the equation of conservation of energy, and energy in minus energy out is the change of energy in the system, but assuming it is a steady flow, then this is zero. So whatever energy is coming in, that is going out. So E in is equal to E out. And energy crosses the boundary either through heat or through work or through mass flow. So W dot in, that is the work input, plus M dot H1, this is the mass input, energy input through mass is equal to how it is going out. It is going out through heat and again mass flow there. So Q dot out plus M dot H2, assuming delta Ka and delta P is equal to 0. So Q dot in minus W dot in minus Q dot out is equal to MCP T2 minus T1, or M dot into H2 minus H1, which is M dot Cp into T2 minus T1. So what are the data I want? I want how much electricity is consumed to heat the room, and how much heat is lost or leaked out of the room, and what is the volume flow that is entering and leaving. And if I know the volume flow, I can get the mass flow by multiplying by the density. Okay, so if they give mass flow straight, no problem. If they give volume flow, multiply by density. So you know M dot, and Cp 1.005, and T2 and T1, T2 minus T1. So depending on what is the unknown, I have to find out. In this problem, T2 is asked. Q and W are given. So I can find out what is the temperature of the air that is going out of the room. Sometimes you may be given both the temperatures, and you may be given the heat loss, and you may be asked to find out how much energy is to be supplied by the current. So then W dot in will be the unknown. So based on what is the unknown and data, I have to find, and the variables are there in the equation, n minus 1 will be given, and you have to find the nth variable. And here, as I told, I think last class I told, the Cp is taken to be constant, but Cp may be varying, and because entry air may be minus 20 degrees centigrade and leaving air may be 70 degrees centigrade, and Cp may not be constant. So if I take constant Cp of 1.005, I may get less than 0.5% error. So because that is negligible, I can always assume the ideal gas to be perfect gas. So these are the problems we have seen in the last class: fused substance and closed system. When a rigid tank is there with air, water vapor mixture, and if it is pressure is reduced, so what is the heat transfer? Okay, so that we have done. And another problem we have done again with pure substance and closed system, and it is a constant volume process, and the state when it is saturated, and when the state when the temperature is reduced to 80 degrees centigrade, we have found out the heat transfer. So this is the second problem we have done, and another problem we have done for a flow system. Okay, so in a steam power plant, we have taken a nozzle. Inlet conditions are given, and exit conditions some are given. So here we have taken the steady state steady flow energy equation. We have used the steam tables, and we have got the values, specific volume and enthalpy at the inlet and exit, and mass flow is calculated here, and heat transfer using the energy equation. And then we have found out what is the area at the exit using the same mass flow equation, because A1C1 V1 by V1 is equal to A2C2 by V2. Okay, then if I take air for a flow system. So first law applied to control volume for an air compressor problem. So if I take an air compressor, suppose if this is the energy equation, I have to see what are the data given. So if Z1, Z2 are given, you can use that. C1, C2 are given, you have to use them. Enthalpies are given, you have to use them. Or Q dot, W dot, which data are there, we have to substitute. And if none of the two are given, you can neglect it, and whatever is the unknown, that can be calculated from the known values. So here it is given air flow steadily at the rate of 0.5 kgs per second, that is a mass flow through an air compressor, entering at 7 meters per second velocity, 100 kilopascal pressure, and 0.95 meter cube per kg volume. So you are given velocity, pressure, and volume at the inlet, and leaving at 5 meters per second, 700 kilopascal, and 0.19 meter cube per second kg. Okay, so again, the same three are given at the exit also. The internal energy of the air leaving is 90 kilojoule per kg, greater than that of air entering. Okay, so change in internal energy is given. Actually, here there is no internal energy, but enthalpy is not given here. Enthalpy is important. So instead of H2 minus H1, you can write U plus PV, U2 plus P2V2 minus U1 plus P1V1. So U2 minus U1 is given, as 90 kilojoule per kg. And cooling water in the compressor jackets absorbs heat at the rate of 58 kilowatts. Okay, it is losing heat 58 kilowatts, that is Q dot. Because it is losing, it is minus 58. And the compute rate of work transfer. So how much work is to be given to the compressor to get the air whose energy gets increased to this much and loses heat this much. And so steady state steady flow energy equation is equal to Q dot is equal to m dot into theta 2 minus theta 1. So theta 2 minus theta 1 expanded as h2 minus h1 plus c2 square minus c1 square by 2000 plus g into z2 minus z1 by 1000. Okay, change in potential energy because z1, z2 are not given, it is neglected. And c1, c2 are given, and up are given, u2 minus u1 is given, p1, v1 and p2, v2 are given, and Q dot is given minus 58. You have to find out W dot. Just substitute the values. Okay. So here I have put 2000 here because U is in kilojoule per kg. If it is in joule per kg, then I need not put this, and also I have to put this pressure in pascals. Because I am putting here kilopascals and kilojoule per kg, I have to divide by 1000 here. Okay. And so finally the W is equal to minus 122. It's obvious because compressor, I have to supply work. Work is done on the system, so I have to get negative. Okay, so rate of work input is 122. And you are asked to find out the inlet pipe diameter to the outlet pipe diameter ratio. So m dot is equal to, we know the same formula, A1 C1 by V1 equal to A2 C2 by V2. I know C1 V1, C2 V2. And so I can find out the ratios of the areas. So, and this is 3.57. And the ratios of diameters is root of A1 because A equal to pi d square by 4. A is proportional to d square. So d is proportional to root A. Okay, so root 3.57, 1.89. And one more problem we will see. So this is a problem which has three components: heat exchanger, turbine, and nozzle. And so the problem, air at 15 degrees centigrade passes through heat exchanger with a velocity of 30 meters per second when its temperature rises to 800 degrees centigrade. Okay, the inlet conditions are given, temperature and velocity. So at 1, C1 and T1 are given. And after the heat exchanger, where its temperature rises to 800 degrees centigrade. So T2 is given as 800 Kelvin. It then enters a, so here actually I have to find out the heat transfer. You are asked to find out the heat transfer to rise the temperature from 15 degrees centigrade to 800 degrees centigrade. Okay, the air then leaves, okay, it then enters a turbine with 30 meters per second. So velocity is given and expands until the temperature falls to 650 degrees centigrade. Okay, so here there is a temperature fall. Temperature fall means enthalpy is reduced. So work is obtained by spending enthalpy here. Okay, so W dot I have to find out here, W dot from the turbine. And then the air leaves the turbine with 60 meters per second and velocity is given to a nozzle and expands till the temperature falls to 500 degrees centigrade. So T4 and C3 is given, T3 is given, entry, and at exit, the temperature is given 500 degrees centigrade. Okay, and I have to find out the velocity at the exit. Okay, I have to solve each control volume separately. So heat exchanger, if I give, first I am writing the complete energy equation, SSSTE. And here when I discuss about heat exchanger, in heat exchanger, there won't be any work done. So this will be 0. And potential energy change is equal to 0. And if you see, it enters at 30 meters per second and leaves at 30 meters per second. So the kinetic energy change also is 0. So Q dot is equal to m dot into H2 minus H1. H2 minus H1 is Cp into T2 minus T1. I know mass flow 2 kgs per second. Mass flow given. I want to just try to check. Yeah, if mass flow rate is 2 kg per second. So mass flow is given 2 and Cp is 1.005 and T2 minus T1. And mainly I have to substitute them in Kelvin. Okay, again I have written wrong here. It should be Kelvin, 1070. Okay, difference means you can write in centigrade also. But in general, if you write P1 V1 by T1, P1 by T1 into P2 by T2, that all those things, it should be in Kelvin. Here also I have to write it in Kelvin, but because it is difference in temperatures, 273 goes off, so I can write in centigrade also. Okay, so I got this. And then coming to the turbine, again the same equation. In turbine, there is no heat transfer. So Q dot is 0 and change in potential energy also is 0. But I have C2 and C3 different values. So I have change in kinetic energy. So I will have change in enthalpy and change in kinetic energy and plus work done. So now WT3 is to be calculated. Just substitute all the values. I will get W23 as 298.8. And because it is turbine, I am getting positive work out of it. And then we come to the nozzle. So nozzle, again, if you take the whole equation, here there will not be heat transfer, there won't be work transfer, no change in potential energy. So I will have only change in enthalpy and change in kinetic energy. And I have T3 and T4. Temperatures are there, so I can find out this. And C3 is given, I have to find out C4, which is the unknown, that I can calculate. Okay, this is the way I have to handle the problems. Any doubts? So basically, I have to consider the whole SSSF energy equation. And there could be work done in nozzle. No, nozzle never does any work. It just expands. Okay. Here work means external work. External work means usually shaft work. Okay. So nozzle will not do any work. Boiler will not do any work. Condenser will not do any work. Usually the work transfer will be done in pumps, compressors, where there is negative work, turbines, IC engines. These will give positive work. Where there is a shaft rotating, external work we call it as. Okay, nozzle, diffuser, boiler, condenser, heat exchanger. In all these cases, there will mixing chamber. There will not be any work transfer. Is it clear? Okay. Then we go to what is called as unsteady flow process. So we have simplified. Actually, we have derived for unsteady flow. We have cancelled dmCV by dt and dECV by dt. Because for steady flow, there will not be any change of mass of the control volume and change of energy of the control volume. So dECV by dt equal to 0, dmCV by dt equal to 0. That is, mass of the control volume remain constant, energy of the control volume remain constant. But some cases there will be where there is unsteady flow. Unsteady flow also is called as a transient flow. Okay, so means the mass or energy of the control volume may change. That is, the energy entering and leaving may not be same. Mass entering and leaving may not be same. If there is mass flow only in, there will be increase in the mass flow. If there is mass flow only out, there will be decrease of the mass flow. Okay, so like some of the examples we will come to. And only one thing, we assume the flow to be uniform flow. Uniform flow means the fluid flow at any inlet or exit is uniform and steady. And thus the fluid properties do not change with time or position of the cross section of inlet and exit. If they do, they are averaged and treated as constants of the entire process. So at the entry and exit, I assume the properties to be constant, but not the property of the system or control volume. Okay, so that is what is called as uniform flow process. So charging of a rigid tank from a supply line is an unsteady flow process since it involves changes within the control volume. I am charging it, so some mass enters here. So what I am telling uniform means here the properties does not change at the entry, and along the diameter also it should not change. It is same throughout. Actually, in fluid mechanics, you will know that there will be boundary layer developed in the pipe, and there will be velocity change across the pipe. So like that, but we assume it is uniform. Okay, that is in a assumption for uniform flow. We assume the properties are steady and uniform at the inlet, and if there is exit, at the exit. Okay, that is uniform flow. Here there is only entry is there. So some energy, mass enters, and some energy with mass also enters into the control volume, due to which there will be increase in the mass and also the energy. So also the shape and size of the control volume also may change in an unsteady flow process. If I have only a piston like that, so if I have mass entry, so the boundary moves, okay, so it expands. So that also it need not be a fixed boundary. Okay, mass balance, energy balance, this we have done. Only thing is E in minus E out is equal to delta E system is same. Okay, but delta E system, there is a change in the energy of the system. Change in the energy of the system is equal to M2E2 minus M1E1. So where E is U2 plus K, U plus KE plus PE. But usually for the control volume within the mass, the kinetic energy and the potential energy is 0. So instead of MTET minus M1E1, I can write M2U2 minus M1U1 like this. So Q minus W is equal to sigma mh out minus sigma mh in plus M2U2 minus M1U1. Okay, Q is net heat transfer into the system. W is net work transfer from the system. Okay, so Q is equal to Q net, Q in minus Q out, because it should be positive. Similarly, W net out we want. So W out minus W in. Work done by the system minus work done into the system is net work done by the system, which is positive. So here, this is a positive number. This is a positive number. Okay. So that is network into the system. This is network done by the system. If it is when you are doing the problem, I have to write this equation, but when W is negative, it will become minus of minus and plus it will become. If Q is negative, I will become minus Q like that. Okay, so this is net work, net heat into the system. So if heat is out of the system, then it is minus. Similarly, it is work done by the system. So if it is work done on the system, this will become plus. Okay, so this is energy out of the system, energy into the system, and this is rate of change of energy within the system. This is final energy, this is initial energy. Okay, any doubts in this equation? The same equation, only thing is I have written this dECV by dt or E delta E system. Okay, this term will be additional one. So we will see one problem also. Okay, one or two things. The energy equation of a uniform flow system reduces to that of closed system when all the inlets and exits are closed. If I don't have inlets and exits, so it will become just like Q minus W is equal to delta U. Okay, so just if you see here, this is 0, this is 0. So Q minus delta W is equal to, this is delta U. Yes, come in. Yeah. So a uniform system may involve electrical, shaft and boundary work all at once. Okay, just like a closed system, here also in open system, you can have all energy transfers. I can have shaft work here, I can have electrical work here, I can have moving boundary here. So everything can be there. So we'll see some more things. And so here mass balance and energy balance, same things. I need not show here. Similar examples, and we will see one problem, right? So here, application of unsteady flow and discharge of heated air at constant temperature. So I have a room with some volume, pressure and temperature. Some air is there in those conditions, and I am heating with a coil, and so electrical work is kept in. And here an insulated 8-meter cube rigid tank contains air at 600 kilopascals and 400 Kelvin. A valve connected to the tank. Here you can see the valve, and if it is now opened and air is allowed to escape until the pressure inside it drops to 200 kilopascals. So it is an unsteady flow. We are getting the mass decreased and some energy and mass are leaving the system through the valve. So it is completely unsteady flow. And so at the second state, my property is given to be 200 kilopascals. So the temperature is maintained constant. So this is another property given because I know initial temperature, final temperature also is given to be same. And it is maintained constant by an electric resistance heater placed in the tank. Because of some energy leaving, temperature may fall. I try to maintain the temperature by supplying electrical current here. Okay, we have to determine the electric energy, how much energy is to be supplied. Okay, so initial conditions, the volume is given, pressure is given, temperature is given. Final condition, the pressure is given. So the mass flow, you can find out Mi is equal to PIVI by RTI, and it is 41.81. And the final mass, that is mass of the control volume, right? So because I know initial conditions PIVI TI, I can find out. And final conditions also I know, I can find out the mass. So how much mass leaving the system, I can find out M initial minus M final. That gives me the mass of the fluid that is leaving. Okay, now coming to the energy equation, we have Q minus W is equal to energy out minus energy in, and this is the change of energy within the control volume. We know all the values, just substitute and you can find out what is this W. Here Q is 0, right? And mass into enthalpy, this is which is going out. We have calculated here 27.87 and the enthalpy is 400.98. How this is CPT. Okay, here H is equal to CPT and U is equal to CVT. I want internal energy here and enthalpy here, and whatever energy entering through mass is 0 because it is only going out. I have to give sigma mh out, that is given here, and final energy of the control volume and minus initial energy of the control volume. You can because I know the mass flow initial and final, and internal energy also initial and final. This is same, internal energy is same because the temperature is constant, so internal energy will be same, and the mass flow is that is mass of the control volume is different. So substitute the values and you can get what is the work that is supplied to the room through the electric coil. Okay, this is the way we have to do. Any doubts? Any doubts in the problem? Okay, otherwise the first law things are over, and so we have to see what are the limitations of first law of thermodynamics. You in the first class, you people told there is second law of thermodynamics, third law of thermodynamics, like that. So when first law of thermodynamics is dealing with everything, why we need second law of thermodynamics? Okay, so some of the examples we see. Before that, I will tell you a small story. And okay, suppose I wanted to go to some temple like Yadagiri Gutta. I went with family. So I went to the petrol pump with a car, and I purchased some liters of petrol and I have filled it. So I have got, so what did I purchase? I have purchased chemical energy. I have so much of mass of fuel. I know what is the calorific value of the fuel. So mass flow into calorific value. I have so much of chemical energy that is available with me. So that I am taking with the car. Now I switch on the engine. So the petrol gets burnt in the combustion chamber. So what happens? So the chemical energy is converted to thermal energy by combustion. And so what is the amount of heat that is released? It will be same amount of kilojoules, whatever I have, chemical energy is there, because energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So I got so much of equal amount of kilojoules of thermal energy. And so this thermal energy, it pushes the piston down. And when it pushes the piston down, the piston goes down and the crankshaft and the shaft rotates. And when the shaft is rotating, I am getting mechanical energy. So basically, the engine which I am using is called as heat engine, which converts mechanical energy to thermal energy to mechanical energy. So I got thermal energy converted to mechanical energy. Shaft work I am getting out of it. And how much will be the work? Same amount of heat, because energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So I got so much of mechanical energy. And that mechanical energy rotates shaft rotates the wheel, and it drives the car. And so I got into kinetic energy of the car. So the car is moving. So the complete work, the mechanical work, is converted to kinetic energy. And the car moves. And finally, so when it has so much of kinetic energy, and it goes up the hill, So the kinetic energy will be converted to pressure, the potential energy, and finally it has gone to the hilltop. Okay, so I should have the amount of potential energy equal to the chemical energy that I have purchased. Okay, now the story, if I continue like that, and I go to the temple, I pray there and come back. So we sit in the car again. Because I have so much of potential energy, I just run it down. So it is converted to kinetic energy. And when the kinetic energy is going, so the wheels are rotating, and it is rotating the shaft also, and the same amount of energy, and it got converted into mechanical work and shaft work. And so this shaft gets rotated. And suppose I say, because of the friction and all, it produces thermal energy of the same amount, and that thermal energy, the cylinder converts, or combustion chamber converts into chemical energy, and I got the petrol back. Once I come down to my home, I got the petrol again as it is. Okay, actually first law will not deny any of my statement as long as the energy is constant. Okay, so there is no energy created or destroyed, same amount of energy I'm taking, and I am coming with the same amount of energy. So first law accepts everything, but we know that some of the things are not possible. You will laugh at it. How can this be possible? How can this be possible? Am I right? Okay. So in the last problem, somebody are asking why we are not considering kinetic energy and potential energy of air in the last problem. So the air within the control volume, as I told, actually, we are potential energy, kinetic energy means macroscopic they are. Okay, so some air is entering and leaving means we consider kinetic energy and potential energy because they enter at some altitude and leaves at some altitude elevation, and enters at some velocity, leaves at some velocity, they have some kinetic energy available. But like just a closed system, when you have a closed system, we are not considering kinetic energy and potential energy. Why? That is the same way in the control volume also, the mass within the control volume, they will not have, it will not have any kinetic energy and potential energy. It will have only internal energy. When you consider the energy of the fluid that is there within the control volume, there is only internal energy. Is that clear? Satish? Okay, Ram Beniwal. It's okay, right? So same way, just when we have done the closed system, we have written that delta Q is equal to du plus delta W. No change of potential energy and kinetic energy I have considered there. Okay, this is the same way. The control volume is fixed. Okay, the fluid within the volume is fixed. Okay, some mass is entering and leaving at different potential energy and kinetic energy. That's why I'm finding out the difference of potential energy and kinetic energy at the entry and exit, but not the kinetic energy and potential energy of the fluid within the control volume. Okay, right. Okay, now we'll put it in the sentences. Suppose a cup of coffee in a cooler room eventually cools off, but you accept it. But I say the reverse flow. Okay, the reverse of this process, that is coffee getting hotter as a result of heat transfer from a cooler room, right? If I say, will you accept it? So now both are at the same temperature. Now I say from the surroundings, it takes up heat and it gets heated up and its temperature rise. So we will not, we know that it's not possible. In the same way, a room can be heated by passing electric current through a resistor. But that, can we convert that heat into electricity? We cannot do that, right? In the same way, a paddle wheel rotates a mass of fluid. So by raising a weight, okay, I raise weight and paddle wheel rotate, and so internal energy of the system, fluid increases. So now internal energy is increasing. Can we use the internal energy to turn the wheel and bring the back that weight down? So the internal energy of the fluid cannot rotate the paddle wheel. And water falls downhill by potential energy, which gets converted into kinetic energy. But using this kinetic energy, water cannot climb the hill. So these reverse processes does not violate first law. This is important. These reverse processes does not violate first law, but they do not occur in nature. We know it by our common sense, right? And processes proceed only in certain direction and not in the reverse direction. So these above examples, reverse processes are not possible. So first law places no restriction in the direction. So whether I say that way or this way, first law accepts it. Okay, as long as the quantity of energy is same. So that is one of the main important restriction. The other one, first law identifies direction for the process and quality for the energy. Second law finds the direction and also quality of the energy. Whether heat to work or work to heat, one is not possible completely. Okay, so it talks about quality. So we will see here the same examples. A cup of hot coffee does not get hotter in a cooler room. And transferring heat to a wire will not generate electricity. And transferring heat to a paddle wheel will not cause it to rotate. And processes occur in a certain direction and not in the reverse direction. A process must satisfy both the first and second law of thermodynamics to proceed. So what is the use of second law? Second law identifies the direction of process. Second law asserts that energy has quality as well as quantity. And first law deals with only quantity. Second law deals with quality. The first law is connected with the quantity of energy and the transformation of energy from one form to another with no regard of its quality. Second law provides the necessary means to determine the quality as well as degree of degradation of energy during the process. So second law of thermodynamics is also used to determine the theoretical limits of the performance of commonly used engineering systems such as heat engines and refrigerators, as well as predicting the degree of completion of chemical reactions. Okay, it says if you have a heat engine, it can have efficiencies only up to certain, it cannot have 100% efficiency. It puts a limit on the performance, right? So that's what second law does. So before going to the second law, we have to talk about what heat engine is. So to understand heat engine, first I have to define thermal energy reservoirs. A thermal energy reservoir is a body of infinite heat capacity. We call it as infinite heat capacity or infinite large thermal energy capacity. Heat capacity means mass into specific heat, MCP. Okay, so that is infinite, means very large, means you can supply or absorb finite amounts of heat without undergoing any change in temperature. That is, from a reservoir, whether you supply so much of heat or remove so much of heat out of it, its temperature will not change because MCP is very large, right? If I want to have 1 degree change in the temperature, I have to put infinite amount of heat or remove infinite amount of heat from it. Then only I can bring 1 degree Kelvin difference. So these are also called as constant temperature reservoirs. They are constant temperature reservoirs. It is not written there. They are constant temperature reservoirs. And there are two types, high temperature reservoirs and low temperature reservoirs. I think in the next slide, they are called sources and sinks. Okay, right in here. Okay, they are classified into high energy reservoirs or high temperature reservoirs, which are also called as sources. And there are low energy reservoirs or low temperature reservoirs, which are called as sinks. Okay. And examples for sources, solar energy, oil furnace, like blast furnace like that, and boiler, and combustion chamber of a gas turbine, and boiler of a steam turbine, nuclear reactor. All these, we consider them as high temperature reservoirs, right? Always we assume its temperature is constant. And similarly, sinks are there. So here, from high temperature sources, so though the engine takes away heat from it, the turbine takes away heat from the boiler, still we assume its temperature remain constant. Okay, so there will be continuous heat supply and heat taken. That's why its temperature remain constant. So whenever it is a source of energy supply with a constant temperature, it is energy reservoir. So high temperature reservoirs are these, and low temperature reservoirs to which normally heat is rejected or heat is taken away without its change in temperature. So large oceans, lakes, rivers, atmosphere, right? All these are considered to be sinks are low temperature reservoirs. So whatever heat you leave into that, its temperature will not change. Similarly, are there any mechanical energy reservoirs? Okay, so in some books it will not be given, but as mechanical engineers, we have to know there are mechanical energy reservoirs. Examples are raised weight, flywheel in running condition, compressed spring, etc. So these also have a large body which can store work as potential energy, okay, which stores energy. Energy reservoir is nothing but which stores energy and supplies when you want. Okay, so these are mechanical energy reservoirs. Raised weight, flywheel in running condition, and compressed spring, these are mechanical energy reservoirs. Then come to the heat engine. It is a device that converts heat into work. Okay, basically, it is a device that converts heat into work. So they receive heat from a high temperature reservoir, that is source, and convert part of this heat to work, and it rejects remaining waste heat to a low temperature sink. And they operate in a cycle. Okay, it is operate in a cycle. This is also an important point. Okay, so they take heat from a source, convert part of it to work, and reject remaining heat to the sink, and operate in a cycle. So if I have work can always be converted heat directly and completely, but the reverse is not true. All the work can be converted to heat. So heat is equal to work. I am spending work so much, and it will be completely converted to heat. But if I am spending heat this much, the work that we get will be less than that. Some heat I have to lose. Okay, all the heat cannot be converted to work. So this is the heat engine. Okay, so here high temperature source, here I have the heat engine, here I have sink to which heat is rejected, heat is taken out, and part of it is converted to work. Okay, this is the schematic of a heat engine. And so there must be a fluid through which the heat is transferred, given here and taken here, through a fluid which is called as a working fluid. So heat engines are cyclic devices, usually involve a fluid to and from which heat is transferred while undergoing a cycle, and this fluid is called the working fluid or working substance. So we have given the example of steam power plant, and so we have pump, boiler, turbine, and condenser. And here to the boiler, I am supplying heat, and this becomes a source. And from the condenser, I am losing heat to the atmosphere, and this is sink. And some work is coming out from the turbine, and again part of the work is spent to run the pump, and remaining is W out. So W net output is equal to the total output minus input. So input is this W in. I am spending some work out of this something. Okay, so here the Q net is equal to Q in minus Q out. So we know that for a cycle, the net heat transfer is equal to net work transfer. So W net out is equal to Q in minus Q out. This is also equal to W out minus W in. Okay, so this is these are the formulae. You can just read it. So W net out is equal to W out minus W in. And here from the heat engine, so much of work is coming, but some of it is spent to run the pump. Okay, and the remaining is net output. So thermal efficiency. So it is whatever I am getting out of it and whatever I am spending for it. Net work output by total heat input. So W net out by Q in. And W net out, already we know that Q in minus Q out, because net heat transfer is equal to net work transfer. This is net work transfer, which is equal to Q in minus Q out. If I substitute it there, and I will get 1 minus Q out by Q in. So the fraction of the heat input that is converted to net work output is a measure of the performance of the heat engine, and is called as thermal efficiency. Okay, so for a given heat input, how much part of it I have converted it to work, so that is the efficiency. Okay. So here in this 100 kilojoules is the heat input, and 80 kilojoules is wasted. Suppose here I have a heat engine which takes 100 kilojoules from the source, and loses 80 kilojoules, then I have net output is equal to Q in minus Q out, which is 20 kilojoules. If I can have a better heat engine and which loses less amount of heat by some improvement of the design. If there is a heat engine taking the same amount of heat from the source, and if it loses only 70 kilojoules of heat to the sink, so the net output will be 30 kilojoules and it has 30% efficiency, right? So that is the way we can calculate the efficiency, and we can compare the engines which has better efficiency. So QH and QL, QH is magnitude of heat transfer between the cyclic device to the high temperature reservoir, and QL is magnitude heat transfer between the cyclic device and the low temperature reservoir. Q net out is QH minus QL. So 1 minus QL by QH is the thermal efficiency of a heat engine. Okay, the same thing. Okay, here, so instead of, so here QH is 100 megajoules, and if QL is 45 megajoules, so net output is 100 minus 45, 55, and the efficiency is equal to 55 by 100, so 55%. So can we save Q out? As I told, if I can reduce Q out, I can improve the efficiency. So in a steam power plant, the condenser is the device where large quantities of waste heat is rejected to reverse lakes or the atmosphere. Can we not just take the condenser out? So because I'm losing heat and my efficiency is getting reduced, if I remove the condenser and directly connect it, I can reduce and save all the waste energy. The answer is unfortunately no, because heat rejection cannot be, unless that heat rejection is there, the cycle cannot be completed. So if you draw the Rankine cycle, if you remember on a PV diagram or a TS diagram, so you cannot have a cycle by removing the condenser. If I remove the condenser, it is an open cycle. So that goes after the turbine, the water goes out, the steam goes out. So I cannot have fresh water. If I want to complete the cycle, the same water is to be cooled to the original temperature at the, that is beginning state. So I have to cool it. I have to lose the heat. So every heat engine must waste some energy by transferring it to a low temperature reservoir in order to complete the cycle, even under idealized conditions. Whatever you do, if you want to close the cycle, that is 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4 is there. From 4 to 1, if I have to come back to the original state, so some points you always remember, right? Every cycle usually will have minimum 4 processes. Because it is converting heat into work, there must be a source supplying heat. So heat input process should be there. Okay, that is one process. And we have to lose heat to complete the cycle. So heat lost process also will be there. And it is giving work, right? So we get work only in the expansion. So there will be some expansion device, okay, like turbine. So whenever there is expansion going from high pressure to low pressure, there should be a pressure increasing device also, like pump or compressor. Then only we can complete the cycle, right? So actually pump or compressor, actually I have to supply work, I am losing work, but I need it, okay, to complete the cycle. So to complete the cycle, I have to spend some energy for some component, I have to lose heat to some component. There is no way to have a cycle without this, okay? So that is the way a heat engine cycle will be. 4 things will be there, 4 devices: heat giving device, heat losing device, and positive work device and negative work device. So 4 devices will be there to complete a heat engine cycle. Okay, so like this heat engine, you can see 4 of them. Here, this is pump, this is turbine, this is boiler, and this is condenser, right? Okay. So here again, if it is 50 and this is 80 and this is 50, now W net will be 30 and the efficiency will be 30 by 80, output by input. So second law of thermodynamics is given by this statement, okay? It is impossible for any device that operate on a cycle to receive heat from a single reservoir and produce a net amount of work. So as I told in the previous one, can I have this without this condenser or sink, right? So Kelvin Planck says, Kelvin and Planck together, okay, they say that that is not possible. It is impossible for any device that operates on a cycle to receive heat from a single reservoir and produce net amount of work. Supply is there, work is there without sink. And QL, I want to make it 0. If QL is 0, so what happens to efficiency? 1 minus QL by QH. So efficiency will be 100%. So 100% efficiency engine is not possible. And 100% efficiency engine is also called as Kelvin Planck violator. Kelvin Planck violator. And also this is called as PPM2, perpetual motion machine of second kind. Perpetual motion machine of second kind. So as for a power plant to operate, the working fluid must exchange heat with the environment as well as the furnace. The impossibility of having 100% efficient heat engine is not due to friction or other dissipative effects. It is a limitation that applies to both the idealized and the actual heating engines. It is nature, okay? Nature or God, whatever you say, it doesn't allow you to have an engine which is 100% efficient. And at the same time, we have opposite to heat engine, which we call it as refrigerator and heat pump. So the transfer of heat from a low temperature medium to high temperature medium one requires special devices called refrigerators. Actually, there is what is called as Clausius statement. Yeah. So we know by our common sense that we cannot transfer heat from a low temperature reservoir to high temperature reservoir. Though it is a common sense, mathematically later or it is a statement given by first Clausius. It is impossible to construct a device that operates in a cycle that produces no effect other than the transfer of heat from a low temperature reservoir to high temperature reservoir. So from a LTR to HTR, I cannot have heat transferring like this without giving any input. So here it is taking 5 kilojoule and giving back 5 kilojoule to what? It is cold refrigerated space, and this is the warm environment, a hot environment. And I cannot have a device which transfer heat like that without any power source. If I want to have that, I have to spend some energy. Okay. So if I can have in this way, this is violating Clausius statement, or this is called as Clausius violator, right? Which transfers heat from low temperature reservoir to high temperature reservoir without any external source is called as the Clausius violator. It states that a refrigerator cannot operate unless its compressor is driven by an external power source such as an electric motor. I have to spend some electrical energy or some energy. So this way the net effect on the surroundings involves the consumption of some energy in the form of work, in addition to the transfer of heat from a colder body to warmer one. To date, no experiment has been conducted that contradicts the second law, and this should be taken as sufficient proof of its validity. Okay, so there is nothing proved against it. That's why we have to accept it. So here, actually, if I want to QL I am taking, and this W, if suppose I am spending some positive work here, then this QH will be total of these two. Okay, QH will be QL plus W. Okay. So these are refrigerators and heat pumps. The transfer of heat from low temperature medium to high temperature medium require refrigerators. Refrigerator, like heat engines, are cyclic devices. The working fluid here is called as the refrigerant. And in the BME, you might have studied about the most frequently used refrigeration cycle is vapor compression refrigeration cycle. Okay, so it also will have 4 components, and heat is given from the refrigerator space, and it is from low temperature reservoir heat is taken, and high temperature reservoir is outside atmosphere. It is losing the here. Okay, so there is heat in and heat out. In the same way, there is compression here through a compressor, and there is a throttling valve or expansion valve where expansion takes place. So again, all the 4 will be there. Only the cycle will be in the opposite direction. Okay, another important point you have to remember is a work producing device works in a clockwise cycle. Important. Work producing device works in a clockwise cycle. Work absorbing device like refrigerator and the heat pump, it works in anti-clockwise cycle. Okay, we will discuss in detail in the next class. Okay, so understand the principles of refrigerator, heat pump, and heat engine, and you see how the performance is calculated. What is the difference between a refrigerator and a heat pump? Okay, so these things you just recollect, check from your BME notes or whatever it is. Okay. Any questions till now? Any questions? Okay, pump can't pump steam, that's right. So either compressor or we'll have pump in steam power plant. Pump pumps water, not steam, because water and steam, same working fluid, changing its phases. Expansion takes place for steam and compression takes place for the pump. Okay, here some question previously. Heater is turned after observing valve or before opening valve. So both are taking place simultaneously. That's it. Only one is not taking place. Okay, PMME1 and PMME2. PMME2 is the Clausius violator. Okay, here heat supply is there. In the PME1, that is PPM, sorry, perpetual motion machine of say first kind, PMM1. In the PMM1, there is no energy transfer or no energy input. Okay, heat is not going into that. It is just a system producing continuously work. But here I am supplying some heat. I am giving energy. But only thing is all the thermal energy will not be converted into heat energy. It loses some heat. Okay, that is the difference. Is that clear? Kamsi Krishna? Right, PMM2 is Clausius violator. I have to draw a source. I have to draw the engine. I have to show the work output without sync. That is PMM2. PMM1 is just draw a system, just producing work without any other arrows or any other thing. That is PMM1. So we'll go to the story. Actually, one of your classmates requested me to share the story that is sent by him. He liked that story very much. So that story only I am sharing with you. A man came out of his home. He admired his new truck. So a person, he has purchased a beautiful new truck with so many of lakhs he has spent on it. And he went to the workshop or the garage to see his truck. And to his puzzlement, his 3-year-old son was happily hammering dents into the shiny paint of the truck. Naturally, he lost his temper. So the man ran to his son, knocked him away, and hammered the little boy's hands into pulp as punishment. With that anger, right, he could not control himself, and immediately he took that hammer and he has hammered the boy's hands. And then he got a little bit of cautious, and when the father calmed down, he rushed his son to the hospital. Although the doctor tried desperately to save the crushed bones, he finally had to amputate the fingers from both the boy's hands. When the boy woke up from the surgery and saw his bandaged stuffs, he innocently said, "Daddy, I'm sorry about your truck." Then he asked, "But when are my fingers going to grow back?" The man was so hurt and speechless. He went back to his car and kicked it a lot of times. Devastated by his own actions, sitting in front of that car, he looked at the scratches. The child has written, "Love you, Dad." The next day, that man committed suicide. The father went home and committed suicide. Think about this story the next time someone steps on your feet or you wish to take revenge. So whenever you become anger, right, you will not be in control of yourself, right? The mind dominates. And so think first before you lose your patience with someone you love. So that is important. Machines can be repaired, but broken bones and hurt feelings often cannot be repaired. Too often, we fail to recognize the difference between the person and the performance. We forget that forgiveness is greater than revenge. People make mistakes. We are allowed to make mistakes. But the actions we take while in a race will haunt us forever. Pause and ponder. Think before you act. Be patient. Forgive and forget. Love one and all. Thank you. Thank you very much. See you again.